Well, those of you who've watched from the beginning probably remember this picture, and this is what I based this piece on, minus the gallery. So I need to make this piece, and this piece here. I thought about applying these half rounds to the front, and I decided against that. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these one solid piece, and I'm going to do it at the router table. Let me show you how I do that. Well, I've got this piece of stock. It's a very nice straight grain. So what I'm going to do is I've got a 1/4 inch round over bit, or excuse me, a 1/4 inch beating bit in the router table. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a 1/8 inch ledge here, 1/4 inch bead, a 1/4 inch gullet, if you will, another 1/4 inch bead, and then an 1/8 inch ledge. This piece is a little bit proud of 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to run it against my router table. I've got a feather board set up. I just need to start that operation. Well, that's the profile I'm looking for, and I knew I was going to have this piece left over in the middle. I'll just take a chisel and I'll clean that up. Well, I'm getting ready to make the little foundations for those pillars that go up the front of the cabinet. And I've got a piece of material here, a piece of stock. It's 1.5 inches wide, 1/2 inch thick, and I've got a marking gauge with it set to 1/8 of an inch. What I want to do is I want to make an 1/8 inch chamfer all the way around the end of this. And first thing I want to do is I want to mark those out. Now I've got the top marked out, I want to mark all the way around the sides. And those are my reference lines for when I cut those. And I'm basically just going to carve it with a chisel. I've got that marked out, and I'm just going to take a sharp chisel and I'm going to start carving these out. Well, I've got this all carved out. It only took a few minutes. Now I need to flip this over, do the other side, and I'm going to cut these off, and then these will be the base for the pillars that I made before. Well, I've got all the pieces cut for the foundation of the pillars, if you want to call it that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some glue and butter the back of this. I've got a combination or a sliding stop rule for that. I'm just going to put that in place and hold it for a second or so. I'm going to let that set up for about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes or so. There's a little bit of squeeze out there, and I'm going to clean that up after that glue's had a little bit more time to set. Now I need to put a piece up on top here, temporarily clamp the board up here. I need to do the same thing here, on the other side, and of course in the center. So I'll get to that. All right, I've given some time for those, again, I guess you want to call them foundations, to dry. I'm just going to take the bead detail I made before, I'm going to set it in there. I'm going to take my marking knife, the flat side, push it up against that edge, and just roll it a little bit so I can make a mark. Now I'm going to cut it past that line. I'm just going to keep finessing it until it fits in here exactly. Alright, that's what I'm looking for. It's nice and tight on both top and bottom. I just need to go and cut the other two, and I'm going to glue those in. Well, here's the hutch with the architectural details installed, and it's onto the top. Well, I've gone ahead and cut up the top, and the dimensions on this are pretty simple. On the base here, this is 9 inches. From end to end is 32. So this piece here is 32.5 inches long by 9.25 inches wide. And again, this is a piece that's going to go on top like this. I need to show you how I'm going to cut the profile on the top. Well, here's my plan for the profile for the top. I've got a rather large bit here, and I need to make this first pass like this. And again, that's going to cut this profile here. If you notice, there's also a 1/4 inch rabbet underneath the top. Now when that's cut and that's cut, the bottom here will line up with the outside of the cabinet and also the base underneath. You'll see more, you'll understand more as time goes on. I'm back here at the router table, and I've got that bit I showed you before set up in it. It's set at its lowest speed because it's such a large bit. I've also made some marks with chalk. Now this is going to be face down or top down on the router table. I want to make sure I don't get confused which is the front and which is the back, because I'm only going to put in that profile on the front of the piece. I'm going to do this in 2 passes, and as always, I'll do the end grain first. Well, that's the profile I'm looking for. It came out very well. I did cut into a little bit of sapwood on the front, but that's okay. I can darken that up a little bit later. The next thing I need to do is I'm actually going to put inlay in the top also. But I needed to cut that first to get the really accurate measurement off this fillet here. Well, I'm getting ready to cut the inlay in the top. This is basically the same thing I did before with the drawer fronts on my last video. I've marked out where the starting and stopping points are. This requires 2 setups. I'm going to be 3/8 inch from this fillet and 3/8 inch from the back. So I can go around the edge grain in the front, and then I need to make a separate setup for the back. But this is very similar to what I did before. Well, I've got all that inlay cut. I need to get rid of some of that dust in there. I did make a pretty damn big mistake. Here's the big goof. I ended up I got distracted and I cut all the way to the end and cut a little bit of here. So what I'm going to do first is, after I do the rabbet on the bottom and do the rest of the treatment to the edge of this, I'm going to put in the inlay first, and then I'm going to cut out a little bit of this, and I'm actually going to fill that with another piece of walnut. Hopefully you won't be able to see it, but you know, it is there, and it's right on top, right in the front corners. So we'll see how that comes out. I've got that rabbet cut on the underside now, and I do want to get rid of this sharp edge here. I actually want to round that over. I'm going to show you how to do that next. Well, I've got my router table, again, set up with a 1/8 inch round over bit. I've got it raised a specific height above my table, and this is what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to round over the underside of that rabbet on the top. So I've got it set up, and I just need to run the pieces through. Well, after knocking down the inlay with the block plane and then working on it with the hand scraper, I'm going to go ahead and sand this now. I'm going to go down to 320 on the top. Now on the end grain here, because it is end grain, I'm going to put oil on this piece to start with. I'm probably going to go up to maybe 600, maybe even further on the sides to help prevent those from getting too dark when I put the oil on it. Well, here's the hutch for the secretary. It's pretty much complete. There's still a few things I need to do. I need to put the back on it yet, or the false back, if you want to call it that, behind the drawers. I'm going to do that later after I do the finish on it. I want to make sure I leave these open so I can get in there pretty easy. I still have to attach the handles to the tambours, and again, that'll be after I do the finish on them. I also need to attach the top to the hutch itself. And I'm going to run some glue along the front, clamp that, let it set, and then from underneath I'm going to be putting a couple screws in the back from underneath like this, and those holes will be elongated this way, so the top will always remain constant. If there is any expansion contraction, it will go towards the back. That's pretty much it for now. The next step in this is I need to make the base for it, which I've got a good idea how I'm going to do it, but I'm not 100% sure. So it might be a couple weeks before I post the next video. Thanks for watching.